Joe Borelli, aka Joey B. Toonz, holds a mirror up to modern life in his multiple video series, including the wildly popular Joey B versus the World on YouTube. Joe shares our fascination with the Western world's cultural decay and is now teaming up with Flip City magazine for a new page of cartoons, Concerned Citizens Corner, starting in the next issue, in this issue, actually. Joe, you set out 10 years ago producing the kind of short form clown world content that has really caught fire on YouTube over the past decade. It's a little bit like an observational stand up comedy broadcast from home. Do you think you were an early pioneer of this video style?
That could be true. I do got to say, just before we get into it, if I do seem a little out of it, I'm still recovering from the Olympics opening ceremony.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know what the hell that was. I mean, when I first saw that, I thought it was a Saturday Night Live skit. You
right.
could see Will Ferrell doing that. So yeah, I'm in a recovery mode right now. My eyes are, scratched them out a little bit, so they're healing now.
Okay. Oh, well, they're not done yet, are they? They still got a closing ceremony to pull off.
Oh no. What are they gonna
Yeah.
do? I saw a guy with a candle sticking out of his, well, can't really say it. Then they were dragging him around on a leash, but people, surrounding him as if it was normal. Maybe he'll appear for that. Who
Yeah.
knows what we're gonna get these days?
Wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you that's all right. Do you want to go on that? Do you think you were an early pioneer of this kind of video content?
I don't know. It's funny. I feel like my dad was the pioneer because my dad, I remember when I was a kid, my mother used to tell me how my dad back in the 70s would notice the stuff that I talk about as if it started back then. He started to see the idiocracy, and he doesn't do interviews or anything. He's a musician and all that. But I mean, the first glimpse of that perspective that I've ever gotten was from my father, coming home from work saying, you wouldn't believe what this guy was doing. Or you go out to the store and the person at the checking out at the cashier's drooling or, like the idiocracy, like the dumbing down of society started a long, long time ago. I feel like it was like a slow kill, like a slow process. And I mean, how I started was I didn't even plan to do what I was doing. I was a cartoonist. I was an animator, and I always kind of goofed on like this social downfall of society or just some pop culture stuff or any kind of oddities that would go on that no one would talk about. But one of my friends sent me TikTok, and I had no idea what TikTok was. And this, I would imagine this was like at the very beginning of TikTok. So I don't know if anyone really was doing what I was doing because I ended up turning on the camera and I basically just was saying, I was like, is everybody seeing what I'm seeing here? I'm seeing these kids on there doing these little dances. I don't know if you remember the floss dance that was popular with these kids would do this
Sure.
dance where they would like do this and that, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is stuff for kids. And then I started seeing adults doing it, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And they're in their homes and they're uploading it to the internet, which is odd because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up where like nobody saw the inside of your house unless you were friends with each other. You know what I mean? And now people are filming themselves in their house doing these embarrassing things that would probably be blackmail footage 20 years ago, and they're willingly uploading it to the internet. So now I'm seeing these adults doing these children dances. Then I get a clip with this kid on the news, the backpack kid. I don't know if you remember this kid who was famous for doing the that stupid little dance that anyone could do, and he's on the Today Show with a crowd of people. They're hosting it. And I'm like, is anybody? How is this person famous? Meanwhile, there's someone who's mastered Stairway to Heaven at probably like age 12, and no one knows who he is. So I
Right.
just felt obligated, like somebody's got to talk about this. So I started making these roast videos about all these weird internet videos I was starting to see, and then it just took off from there. And I did it because I didn't see anybody else talking about this stuff. So maybe I pioneered this kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't think anyone else is really, documenting any of this kind of stuff. I mean, I would like to consider myself like an idiocracy historian. I feel like I'm the only person in my field right now. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think you put a big spotlight on our culture's rampant narcissism and lunacy.
Yeah.
You know,
I've seen people doing very similar stuff. I think it helps people with the algorithm. It seems like, because I know several people that do similar things. I mean, it's not exactly what you're doing, but
Right.
yeah, real close. So I'd say yes, you are a pioneer.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I
we'll
should
give
be
you that.
proud or concerned. I mean, the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing and I have a following really says that there's a real problem going on, because I wouldn't exist 20, 30 years ago. What would I talk about? None of the stuff that I'm talking about now even existed back then. So in a way, I'm proof that there's a real problem out there. Because in a way, it's kind of like, and and then the fact to double down when YouTube takes my videos down or I get censored and all that. What am I really doing other than just describing what's happening? And that's offensive and that's a problem. So it's
Right.
almost like I'm in a common sense now is an extreme measure, that I'm an extremist now for just saying. It's just everything is so flipped upside down, that again, it's like the fact that I'm anything on here doing this and have a following, that is proof in the pudding that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun to be extremists? So easy these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Common sense has become like an insightful, inquisitive thing, when it was just normal back in the day. I don't know. I just feel like I grew. It's almost like I feel like I grew up on a different planet, but I just somehow overnight when I was sleeping got moved to like a clone of the original planet. And it's like just everything changed. Like everyone looks the same, but everyone just lost their minds. I don't get it. There used to be just a certain societal rule set that we had that is just completely thrown out the window. Like you didn't see, like I actually remember when I was a kid, when I was like over 13 years old, I used to say, I go, one day you'll see people go grocery shopping in their pajamas. Something that you never see. Now you see that wherever you go. You see that wherever. It's like people have just given up. I like looking at some of the old footage from like, like the 30s, 40s, and 50s, where you'd see people dressed up, no matter what class they were, and no matter what race they were, people left their house wearing, whatever they had that was like the best suited to go out in the public. And it's like that. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I dress up anymore. What the hell is there to dress up for anymore out there? But I mean, it's kind of like, it's weird how you look back at those videos as if it was like a complete time capsule of a different time, where everybody just was, it was almost as if they were proud. Like when you walked outside, it was like you looked at basically all the modern day marvels that we created, whether it was the buildings or even like it was mostly small businesses like that. You knew that when you go into a store, you'd get a product that was handmade, and you talk to one person. If there was a problem with it, you talk to one person and they'd fix it. Now it's like you get on the phone and there's a problem. You get India on the phone, you get Asia on the phone, or you get just somebody stoned that doesn't like doing their job, that knows nothing about the product. It's like that. I feel like that's the beginning of the demoralization of the country, where people don't feel like it's much of a community anymore. And I feel like it's just like deteriorated. I think a lot of people go outside to just get what they need and get the hell out of there and get home. I can't speak for everybody, but I think there's something to be said about people that felt the desire to dress up out in public. And I think that's just lost because of the demoralization of everything. I mean, I could go on about that for hours, like of why, but I thought a lot about it. And it's like something obviously happened that nobody's talking about or nobody wants to admit to, but something happened. And until we talk about those things, I don't think it could ever get back to that, or we could ever fix whatever the reason is why it led to us to be where we are today. So again, it's like, the fact that I'm even touching on this subject that nobody talks about and I have a following for it is just like really a sign of the times. I just think that this should be a mainstream discussion, but it's nobody talks about it. I don't know.
Do you think LSD is to blame for any of this?
You know what? I think a lot of the hippie movement really, now that you talk about it, had a lot to do with it. Because if you think about it, it's like back then was like where everybody was like, defending their freedom, to be able to do what they want to do. Right. But then we found out that a lot of those people were selfish and full of shit. They didn't really care about the freedom of everybody. They cared about the freedom of doing what they wanted to do. That's why those same people back in the Woodstock days and all that were preaching free speech and free expression to do drugs or be naked or do whatever they want to do, they used that they used our freedoms as a mask for just them doing what they want to do, because those same people were against people that had reservations about the vaccine during the pandemic. And it's like, wait, hold on, I thought you guys were like about freedom of doing what you want to do and anti-government control and all that. And it's like, interesting. So when it comes down to something they don't agree with, now all of a sudden the freedom goes out the window, and then they the government. They start siding with the government. So it's kind of like, yeah, I think that it was a farce. And I think introducing drugs into the community and being okay with it probably was also a bad thing, because I don't think everybody's I don't think a lot of people are really equipped to I'm not against marijuana. I'm not against drugs. I think people should be able to do what they want to do, but within moderation. I just don't think most people are doing things in moderation. Like if a doctor were to prescribe marijuana, which they do, like they prescribe a certain dose of it and do it at a certain time. People are, tying two joints together and bong rips. Like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. You know what I mean? And then going to work like that. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like things have just gotten out of control because there's no balance. People are unbalanced. I don't think people do things in moderation. I think people need vices to deal with life. And I just don't think that there's much of a balance with people. And that's why we have so much extreme behaviors on both sides of even the political spectrum. But again, I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm kind of just winging this. It's like I'm really just a normal everyday guy that just decided to speak up and make jokes about it, because I was always doing comedy, even with my animation and cartoons. So I kind of looked at this as like an comedy gold mine of what's going on right now. And obviously there's some truth to it. So I tie it all together. But really, it's like, I don't really know. I'm studying this as it happens, because nobody seems to be actually really investigating any of this. I mean, you don't see like the mental health industry, figuring out why, somebody wears their pants down to their ankles and in public. Like that's something I would investigate and see, well, what's wrong with them that they're doing that they don't know. And an adult doesn't know how to wear their pants, or use a belt. I mean, like, you learn that when you're a child. Like, what happened to that person? And how did that become a culture? I don't even think they washed their ass, to be honest with you. It's just, I mean, really, it's just, nobody talks about this kind of stuff. And the reason it matters so much to me, because these people vote, these people decide the direction of the country. You know what I mean? I just did a video where it's like, I think people should take an IQ test. I don't think people are all equipped to understand. You mean to say that the guy that shops around in Walmart in his pajamas with his ass sticking out, you think that guy knows the proper direction of the country? There's millions of that type of guy. So it's just like, and nobody wants to talk about it. And I'm up here talking about it, and I get this following, like, wow, man, you're really saying what I want to say. Well, why don't you say it?
Right.
Everybody should be speaking out against. Everyone's scared of backlash. Everyone's scared to be judged like, oh, you can't say that about people. Well, that's why we're in the mess that we're in, because we just let it fall to the wayside and we don't do anything about it. We don't say anything about it. You shouldn't even let these people in your store, let alone vote in the voting booth. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, I might be for rolling back voting rights to property owners.
Well, that's what it used to be. It used to be like landers and all that.
Right.
I think, but I mean,
yeah.
I think it should be men and women or all races. As long as you can prove that you're a responsible citizen with an IQ above, I don't know what, 90,
Yeah, some standards. Hey, let's go back to your cartoons and your platform. Okay. When you started up about 10 years ago, you were making animated cartoons, including one of them was called Breaking Bad, the final episode. That was a very funny one. you did in what do they call that style? Whiteboard style, I think.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of like the earliest ones that I did actually. I used to do animation for film festivals. I used to tour the Spike and Mike Sick and Twisted Animation Festival before I even started uploading stuff to the internet. So I wasn't even online with my stuff
Did
until I think the Breaking Bad one was one of the first ones that I think I ever uploaded to the internet.
did you get into Spike and Mike?
Yeah, yeah, I used to the very first animated short that I did was and it was awful. I mean, like I can't even watch it anymore because the timing's so bad. And it's right when I first learned how to do animation. I used to do it was called Artie's Day Off, and it was about a guy, unemployed guy that would sit on the couch and watch TV, and he would scroll through the channels, and it would be all kinds of parodies of pop culture, and it would just kind of flash, one little 1 minute clips, and he changed the channel and go into another spoof of something. And I ended up sending that in blindly to the Spike and Mike Animation Festival, and within a week I got a contract from Spike. He called me on the phone, and he showed the film in Detroit, France, and San Diego at Comic-Con, which I think was 2007 or six. And I ended up flying out there to watch the cartoon and meet other animators, and that kind of sparked my interest in actually pursuing animation and cartooning as a career, because where I grew up in upstate New York, I was the only one doing that kind of stuff. I didn't
Mm.
know anyone that was trying to do that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see my stuff on the screen in front of an audience and meet people that did what I do. And it really inspired me to pursue it. So I had $3,000 in my pocket, and I got in my car and I moved to California without a job or anything, and basically 2 months rent. And I just figured it out. And here I am.
I used to go to those Spike and Mike shows back to 1987. Of course,
Wow.
that's where Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead, got his big promotion out of getting into that festival, got noticed
Totally.
and stuff.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm sure you're a fan of his.
Oh
He's
my God. Mike Judge.
he's
Yeah.
cool.
I'd say Mike Judge is probably one of my biggest inspirations as far as like the style of comedy that he does. Because if you think about it, you go from Beavis and Butthead to obviously Idiocracy, the movie, Office
Mm-hmm.
Space. Those are all takes on society. Those are all takes on like certain pockets of society that you would consider kind of the dumbing down of American culture. And every one of his projects, he touches on that. And that always resonated with me because, like I said, my first cartoon was making fun of pop culture. So I always had a knack for like finding things that seemed out of place with people that were kind of goofy that nobody talked about, and shining a light on it. Like, hey guys, like this is silly stuff. How come nobody's talking about it? So I absolutely look up to Mike Judge. He would be actually a dream guest on my show to have him
That would
on
be
there.
great.
Yeah, I'd love to get a hold of that guy.
Oh my God. That'd be
Could
awesome.
do it. Sounds great.
Yeah, work on it. That'd be
Yeah.
wonderful. So, Joe, you've managed to grow and maintain your viewer base, zeroing in on 1 million subscribers on YouTube through the great purge of COVID disinformation, when many podcasters saw their platforms and their monetization totally wiped out. Did you make a determination to step around sensitive COVID content and things like that to keep your channel going for the greater good?
No, that's actually what launched me, was actually poking holes at some of the absurd COVID mandates, like where in LA you couldn't scream on a roller coaster. uh,
I forgot
That's
that
that
right.
one.
there's a great
That's
photo of a
right.
kid in a band practice in his middle school or high school, And not only do they have them wearing masks while they're playing the flute, they got a cutout of the hole in their mask,
Right.
and the kid's playing a flute. Not only is he doing that, he's inside. They're inside these little green tents, like these little pods. And there's this
Yeah.
poor kid. I mean, this poor kid's a little overweight, and obviously the tent is not fit for him, and he's just crammed in there with his neck cranked, and he's trying to play the flute. And I'm like, this is like child abuse going on here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you had kids and sitting in squares in the playground, chalk outlines in the. I mean, I'm like, again, like when I goofed on that, I didn't realize how sensitive this was to the world, because at the time where I lived, we didn't have any mandates. We didn't have any lockdowns. So I'm looking at it from afar going like, wow, what the hell's going on up in New York, California, Canada? Like, this is weird, and I started goofing on it, and I sure enough saw the backlash. But like, I don't know. I grew up in New York. Like, I never cared what anybody said about me. I never, especially people that I don't know. Like you could say anything about me. Like, I don't know you. The only people I care about's opinion is people that I love and and my friends and family. People on the internet. Who cares what anybody? So who are these people? And I don't know them. So I thought sometimes I just always thought that we grew out of caring what people thought about us, like in middle school or like when we got out of high school. I didn't realize till I got online that people grow into adulthood still caring what other people think. Like, that's just really strange to me. So obviously when I saw that backlash, I would just laugh at it, but I never tippy-toed around it because, number one, I thought it was hilarious, like how ridiculous these mandates were. And number two, like I said, I have an opinion and I believe in it, and I'm not going to let people that disagree with me dictate like how I feel about something, like, which is what you see common in society, which I still to this day just don't understand it, because here I am with a massive following saying everything that I wanted to say and joke about, and I go against everything that you're supposed to do, all the approved opinions, not to just buck the system. This is just how I feel about things. I see humor in everything, and this is what I want to do. And I realize that so many people are scared to do that or intimidated, and they will compromise even their art, which is the saddest thing, or their comedy. Like, no, you can't let these idiots dictate like what you draw or what you say, what kind of jokes you craft. Like, this is why we're in the problem that we're in, is because we cater too much to the opinions of these morons. These people who have nothing going on, 9 times out of 10, they have nothing going on. They don't have a talented bone in their body. They don't have a unique perspective at all in their brain. They just regurgitate what they see on the television or in the paper. Why are we listening to these people? Why are we catering our lives and tiptoeing around these idiots? The tide's got to change at some point, because it's getting absurd.
Joe, do you think that the influencers who have built clout on the internet and claim to be part of the culture war have a responsibility to boost and promote smaller creators and give a hand up?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I definitely like to highlight smaller channels or artists that don't get a lot of attention, just because it's a personal thing to me, because I'm one of those people. I was one of those people always trying to get my work out there, and nobody would look at it. So this is how I choose to use my platform, is to lift up other people. And I do find it odd, though, that people with even bigger followings than me, mainstream people, like, is it really that much out of their day to take 2 minutes to show like a talented musician or a talented kid or a talented artist? Like, you very rarely see that, on these shows. And it's like, just throw one in at the end and put their name up there. I mean, you got millions of viewers and followers. Like, you could help this person. That's why sometimes I feel like, as much as a grassroots like YouTube seems, and the internet and this freedom that we have to express ourselves online, I still think a lot of people are selfish, in the sense that I think a lot of people are still motivated by money and greed. And I think it shows in their product sometimes. For example, again, like you don't see a lot of people promoting unknowns on their shows. I think everybody should do that. It costs nothing to do that. It doesn't take away from your product. We should all be universally doing that. But I also see a lot of people who uh claim to be truthers or edgy comedians, and they have these shows where they jump on whatever the hot topic is to talk about. They're constantly out material, but it's like they're riding the wave of what they know is going to get clicks. People will accuse me of that because a lot of times I talk about things that definitely get people riled up and people get outraged. But I don't just turn the mic on and the computer on every time there's a hot topic and have a take on it. Number one, I can only take so much of these crazy people. So I need like to have mental breaks. But number two, it's like that's not why I do this. I don't do this to get clicks. You know, it's like that's why I don't sometimes I just put out another show. I hadn't put out a podcast in 3 months, you know, where like that would be like YouTube suicide to not put out a show after months. But it's like because I don't do it for clout. I don't do it to get the clicks. I do it when I got something to say, when I find humor in something. I try to treat it in a very organic manner. So it's hard for me to go back to your original question, like, should other influencers, you know, have an obligation to do that? Yeah. But it's like I just can't relate to anybody else because I don't really see people approaching this the way that I do it, you know? So I don't know. I mean, again, all I could do is speak for myself, and maybe that inspires maybe they see what I'm doing and it inspires them to maybe give a shout out to like a young artist or musician. You know, you can only hope.
Yeah. You recently took a bow for getting banned from TikTok. What happened there?
I think because I was making fun of TikTok too much. I have a TikTok account, and I would pretty much only upload the TikTok and Idiocracy videos. Like I just thought it would be funny to just only make fun of the platform. It needs to exist to be on the platform. And a lot of the stuff I censored. I tried to go within the guidelines so that it passed through. But of course, just like most of the tech overlords, when they strike you down, they make up fake reasons as a, you know, they'll use something in their community guidelines as an excuse for taking down your videos that obviously doesn't even apply to mine, because most of mine I rarely curse in them, I censor them, but they still would take them down and use a BS reason to take it down. So they just, what I've gathered is that if you look at all the videos that I've had taken down on all my platforms, mostly all of them are censored. Mostly even the language, or if there's something risque and all that. I've gathered that they just don't like what I'm saying, because I've taken a lot of videos, commented on a lot of videos that I've gotten off of YouTube that major channels have featured, like the Tonight Show, or even just big YouTubers or mid-level YouTubers. But when I show it, all of a sudden they take mine down, but everyone else's is up. What's the difference? It's what I'm saying about it. It's if I don't praise degeneracy, then they take it down. You know, so if I goof on a girl twerking in the grocery store, they'll take it down, but the original upload from that girl's channel will stay up because they just don't like what I'm saying about it. But what I find so dishonest and hilarious, to show how dishonest these people are in Silicon Valley, they don't even have the courage to even stand by what they really believe in, which is guys, just say you don't like what I'm saying. Don't just say you don't like people like me, instead of pretending that it violates your community guidelines. Like, just own up to where you stand. And I think that people would respect you more. Like, I would actually, if they took my video down and said, we just didn't like what you said, I would actually respect that more, because they're being honest. But they try to like cast themselves off as these like do-gooders of society, when it's like, no, you're not. You don't stand by free speech. You don't even stand by your community guidelines. You're just taking it down because you don't like what I'm saying about it. So just own up to that. That shows how dishonest and creepy these people are. They're weasels. They're just little weasels. That's why, like, look at some of these people that run the tech industry. These are the kids that were had their heads dunked in the toilet and stuffed in the lockers. That's where they belong. We should shove them back in the lockers. And I'm not for bullying, and but I'm just saying, it's like you guys are getting a little too comfortable behind this little fake little virtual reality world that you created with this new set of rules that you've created, and these little avatars of yourself to become the man on your little fake virtual reality platform that you created, because you can't hang in real life. That's
Right.
that's the truth, is that they're so socially awkward in real life because they're not men. So they have to create a way to like thrive in a fake world where they're the boss. And you see how they run it. They run it like cowards, like the cowards that they actually are. And that's my take on it. And they know it. And they know that I know, and that's why they want to shut me down. And you don't hear anybody talking about them like this.
Right.
So it
Hey,
is what it is.
And real quick, this is about a 5-minute warning till we are going to be asking the final question, because we're going to run out of time here soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a real life Revenge of the Nerds, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
let me go with this. You are friends with actor Michael Rappaport of True Romance and literally a million TV shows. He's been everywhere. Can you share a story of how he gave you a hand up?
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael Rappaport was one of the first people to share my cartoons. He actually reached out to me, and we did a collaboration on a lot of videos. I did a collaboration with him on a T-shirt. He had a book out, and I ended up designing a T-shirt for him, which he promoted for me. And I linked up with a really hilarious LA comedian, Savvy the Amusing, who is one of the most underrated impersonators. He does great impersonations, and I used to use him as my voice, doing a voiceover acting for my cartoons. And we did stuff with Rappaport. He lent us some of his audio, and so I worked with him creatively through the cartoons and animation and illustration before I started doing the videos. And when I started doing the videos, then he jumped on the videos with me. Some of my early videos where I was goofing on those people in Seattle, Chaz, when they took over Seattle, the defunded police people, and they wanted to have their own civilization, in a neighborhood in Seattle. And he jumped on the voiceover with me, goofing on those people. And so, yeah, he was like one of the very first people who I collaborated with comedy and cartooning and everything. So yeah, he's a good dude, and I got a lot of backlash from having him on my show because at the time we had different political stance on a lot of things. But again, that's another thing where it's like a lot of my friends, I don't agree with 100% with their politics, and I've always had friends that I don't align with politically, and I just carry that through into my art. Like, I really don't care where you stand, as long as I think that you're a good, decent person. It's like, it's more of like, what is your intentions? So a lot of people push back on me having him on the show, and it's hilarious because he kind of changed his stance on a lot of things since then.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna
But
say,
yeah, but anyway, yeah, so I have a little bit of a history with him.
he is known for being very blunt and was very critical of Donald Trump over the years. Um, Now, last year there were some internet rumors at the end of last year that Michael had changed his tune on Trump and might be open to supporting him, to which he responded on Twitter, "I never ever said I had conversations with Pig Dick Donald Trump, aka Slob Dick Don."
Yeah, well, don't forget he's a comedian, and there's always comedy, so that's his truth. And
Yeah.
I respect that because I look at him as an artist, I look at him as an actor and a comedian, and again, like, I don't always have to agree with what he says and all that. But again, it's like I don't know him that well, to even, you know, to the point where it's like I don't even, my own friends that I disagree with, like I'm not into debating people or convincing people to like feel the way that I do about things. Like I just put myself out there. This is how I feel, take it or leave it. And I can respect other people who have that same attitude. And, you know, coming from New York, Michael Rappaport's a true blue New Yorker. So I can respect that he stays true to his convictions. And I just wish more people would be, you know, prone to do that, you know, because we all have our beliefs, you know.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think we're cool. Hey, everybody, watch and subscribe to Joey B. Toonz on YouTube. Get him over 1 million subscribers there. And check out Concerned Citizens Corner running in Flip City Magazine starting in volume 22. Thank you, Joe.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to a cool relationship with you guys doing this. So,
Yeah, us
you
too.
you guys kick ass.